All right, today is a big day. It is officially bow build day, and we have got a brand new bow to set up. In 1 week from now, Micah and I are going to be going on one of the probably the biggest adventure hunt that we have ever been on. So I just want to walk you guys through exactly what I'm going to do to get this bow set up, tuned, and ready, sighted in and all, for my hunt this next week. I'll have pretty much every day that I'll be able to shoot. So I think with the amount of time that I have, we'll be able to get it set up and ready to go. I just want to bring you guys along and walk you through the process of everything that I'm going to do. So really excited for this. It's been a few years since I've worked in a bow shop. And so things have continued to adapt and change and get better and better. The majority of the big things have stayed the same, but there's some technologies that have improved and made bow setup and tuning so much easier, and I'm just really excited to go through it and explore it. So let's open it up, see what we got. I've not looked at this yet. Showed up on my doorstep yesterday. All right, even got a nice hat. Beautiful. That's a good looking bow, huh? The Mathews Lift-X. Very nice. Very excited to get this set up and going. It's been quite a few years since I've shot a Mathews, but I'm excited to have it back in my hands and excited to be shooting it again. They've got some serious technology that's come out specifically with this limb shift that I think could just make your at-home bow shop, bow tuners like myself, just so much easier. So let's get some stuff mounted on here. I'm just going to put it in my bow vise here. Okay, first thing I'm going to put on is the rest. Same old, same old. This is just the QAD MX2. Was running this on the last few years. I've shot the ham skin in the past. I've shot other limb-driven rests in the past, and honestly, I don't think you can go wrong as long as you've got your rest set up right. But really, I've come to appreciate the simplicity of just the QAD and the cable-driven rest. And I've not had an issue at all, so I'm just going to keep running them. And it's, same with Hoyt and Mathews. They have these rests set up so that they almost come center shot perfectly from the get-go, horizontally and vertically, depending on where we put the Peep sight. So I've got this little rubber dampener I can fill the burger buttonhole with. We'll go ahead and take the rubber band off. And one thing I do like to do before I put this rest on the bow is I always like to take this little felt and put it on the rest. I always like to kind of form it to it, if I can help it. And then just peel the sticker off and stick it on that way. So much easier to do this than when it's on the actual bow itself. I've not really had an issue with this felt. You can replace it if you need to. Some things I've done in the past as well is just taken like hockey stick tape and I've just cut a little strip off of that and I put that in the V of the rest as well. That seems to work okay, but it's not fully silent or not as silent as this material that QAD sends. Okay, that's good. Okay, simple as that. Then I'll just loosen this screw on the outside. There's kind of two main brackets on this QAD rest. There's this outside bracket that really locks things in, and then there's an inner bracket that you kind of line up as well. So this is the outer one, and then this little piece here is the inner one. Okay, and there's a little line right into the riser. I'm not quite sure if you can see it, but it's right in line with the center of the burger button hole. Go ahead and tighten this down. This part doesn't need to be super tight because we're going to have that other piece on top of it, but there's a line right there in the middle of the burger button hole. We just line that up pretty close to that, and that'll give us right in the middle of where we need to make our adjustments for the vertical adjustments on our rest. Then we'll switch, we'll put this outside bracket back on. This is ultimately what holds it in firmly and locks it in on the bow. There we go. Okay. And this is the one I'll get tighter. I don't need to overdo it, but good and firm. And you can see it lines up just right on 0, 0. And then same thing from this other side, it lines up 0, 0 perfectly. So that's good. I'll wait to put this rest cord in until we put the bow in the bow press. So let's go ahead and let's stick on our stabilizers. I'm going to take this off just to get it out of the way. This looks like it's my screw for my bow sight. This is the first Lift-X I've had the privilege of setting up, so very excited for it. I'm running the 12-inch bridge lock stabilizer. It seems like Mathews has done a really good job of just making everything so functionally efficient and just lining everything up perfectly in line with the riser. I think that's kind of the whole movement that a lot of these bow companies have made, but they've done a very good job of doing this extremely well. You still have your old stabilizer mount, but this one here just slides straight in. And I got the 12-inch. I really like that I have the ability to shoot a 12-inch stabilizer if I want, because I do like a little bit longer stabilizer. But I do like shooting bow hunter freestyle class and just local 3D shoots and stuff like that. So it's really cool that I have the ability to just take this and slide it in to get this stabilizer less than 12 inches overall. And that way I can still shoot the bow hunter freestyle class and not have to worry about it. It's also nice because I'm able to, if I'm in a ground blind or anything like that, then I can shorten it up and I don't have to worry about my stabilizer actually hitting the ground blind, or if I'm in a box blind. I don't have a box blind yet, but if I'm with a buddy or hunting somewhere else with somebody that does, I've got that ability to move it, and it shouldn't affect my overall tune of my bow very much as long as I've got it set up and tuned appropriately. So love that feature. Think that's worth it in itself. So this right here is just what locks that stabilizer in. It's good and sturdy. We'll go ahead and put this V-bar bracket on. This is for the bridge lock stabilizer as well. It seems to be very, very sturdy. I haven't toyed around with this quite yet, so excited to test it out and see how it does. But it seems like how it locks in and how it functions, like it should be very, very solid. So I've just got my screw in just like that. I'll put this piece through the screw and through the bracket on this side. I'm going to go ahead and mount it right here on the bottom side of the bow. I can screw that in with fingers most of the way. Okay, so this is right up against the riser, so it's already firm as it is. But then when I tighten it, that really locks it in. So that should be super, super sturdy. I'll go ahead and I'll set this angle now. Loosen this up. It looks like it gives you the degrees on it right here. So I'll probably run it, I like running it pretty close, honestly, so I'll probably just put it at 2 to start, and then I'll put it 2 down as well. Okay, that's a good starting point. Tighten the bracket down. I'll throw the other stabilizer in there. I'm running the 10-inch bridge lock for the rear stabilizer. I've ran 12-inch stabilizers for the rear stabilizers in the past. They've never been too much in my way, but I think I'd rather run a 10-inch bar with more weight, so there's less in my way, than run a 12-inch bar with a little bit less weight. So the stabilizers are kind of proportional. The longer the stabilizer is, the less weight you need to have the same stabilizing effect. The shorter it is, the more weight you need. So for a hunting bow, running this 12 on the front and 10 on the back, it should be about perfect for what it is that I want. just looking at it, I think that it's angled out a little bit too far for what I'm kind of hoping for. This is kind of leaning on my clamp too. That's better. Okay, I'm just going to kick this in a little bit more. I do like it, running it pretty close to my string. We'll start with it right there. Okay, that should be good. Good starting point for the stabilizers. Okay. Next, let's throw on the quiver. I'm really excited about running this particular quiver. I love the fact that it's super lightweight and long. I like a two-piece quiver in the sense where the arrow is held up front, and then at a long distance, I think it takes a lot of the vibration out of the actual arrows when you shoot. Yet this is still a single piece quiver where I have the ability to remove it, which is really nice for ground blind hunting, tree stand hunting, anything like that, specifically for whitetails, turkey, and all that stuff. So excited to run this. The only thing I don't like about it is it's only a 5-arrow quiver. I like running a 6-arrow quiver, but I think you get above anything more than 5 arrows, your quiver starts to weigh too much. It starts to put too much weight on the side of your bow, which can really affect your overall shooting. And so I think 5 is a good number just to keep the weight of the quiver down and the weight of all those extra arrows down as well. So let's go ahead and get these brackets lined up on here. Okay, this is the first Mathews quiver like this that I've installed, so I'm excited to get this on here. Okay. Looks like there's only one way to really put it. That's good. That makes it easy for a guy like me that's never done it before. Okay, I can put my screw right on this side. There we go. There's kind of a washer in there that lines it up on this back side. And then yeah, it's locked in the right position here. Get that pretty firm. Yeah, perfect. That's the top quiver position and the bottom quiver position. I'm not sure, it doesn't look like, oh, there we go. There's a little piece right here that it looks like it sits in that cutout of the riser. So it needs to sit in here right like this, I believe. Or maybe I got it wrong. Maybe it's like this. Nope, that's right. Just like that. Because yeah, it sits right up against this piece. So I'll put that in, put the screw in right here. That fits rock solid. Let me just see if I can throw the quiver on here and see if it locks in okay. So it slides in just like that. And then this slides into this bracket here. Yep, clamps in. Simple as that. That's perfect. Yeah, there's no adjustability vertically on this, but really I don't think you'll need to. Seems like it's just about level with the limbs here, and as long as I'm not running arrows that are over 30 inches long, I really shouldn't have any issues with it whatsoever. So quiver's mounted. I don't plan to set it up and shoot it with the quiver on, so I'm just going to go ahead and take it off for the rest of this process. But I really like how that attaches on and off. I think that's very, very smooth. Okay, let's see, next piece that we're going to put on there. Let's put on our bow sight. So we are going to be running the Mathews Genuine UltraView sight. This sight, I believe, is a significant upgrade from their previous UV slider sight that they made. They fixed a lot of the issues that I feel like they had with the first sight. There is still a few things that I think they could probably improve upon on the sight itself. The biggest thing for me is I don't like the fact that with this locking button open, I can slide it, but when it's closed, it still slides. And I know that the UltraView team does that intentionally. They want it so that if it is locked, you can still move it if you need to. With that said, I think I'm just used to other sights in my older sights where when it's locked, it does not move. Side note, this is taken after the fact, but I just want to show you this feature on the sight that I didn't realize they had until I've shot it for a little while now. So as it regards to rolling this sight and using the lock button, when it's locked, they designed it so you can still roll it down if you want to, but if you don't like that feature, you can actually adjust it. So if you look right here, if I've got this tab open, I'm gonna grab this tiny Allen screw, and this set screw right here holds down this adjustment screw, which sets the tension for this roller. So if I loosen this set screw, that should be okay. And then this is the adjustment screw right here. So the easiest way to access it is to actually do your horizontal adjustments and move this sight all the way out so you can get to it easier with your Allen wrench. For now, I'm just gonna pull this light off the sight. I can reach it a little bit easier. I'll just have this lever up. I can insert in my Allen wrench, at least get it close, and I can tighten this down. And then I can go ahead and I can take this Allen key and I can tighten the set screw down onto this screw. And then from there, when I turn this down, now it's locked in. I cannot move it in the locked position. So then it's a little bit firmer to loosen, but I can still roll it in the loose position here, and then I can turn that down and the sight is locked. Just a quick feature that I didn't know when I was first putting the sight on that I do know now, I just wanted to share with you. But the big improvement that I do like as well is they put this stopper in here. So when I'm rolling my sight, I can just roll it up to the top and it stops perfectly right where I want it to be. And so that's always my home base. So I'm running a 5-pin. I love running a 5-pin slider. It gives me 20 to 60 yards perfect. I don't have to worry about moving my sight, and that's for the vast majority of every hunting scenario. But then I have the ability to have that bottom pin as my rover pin per se. All the pins will stay the same, but the sight housing will move down, and I can shoot out to those further distances. So I love that fact about it, and all I need to do to make sure that it's set is every time I'm hunting, getting in the stand, whatever, I can just, boom, roll it up to the top, make sure it's there, it's set, it's done. I don't need to worry about it. The sight also comes with just sticker sight tapes. I know some people prefer metal sight tapes, but honestly, in all the hunting I've done, all the shooting I've done, all the different weather conditions, I've never had just a plastic stick-on sight tape move or stretch or expand or anything like that. The only issues I have is if you pull it off and put it back on, it's going to stretch, it's going to be longer, so you can't use it again. It's kind of a one-and-done thing. So really, there's a lot of big improvements on it, and there's still some room for improvement. I don't think you'll ever get a perfect sight out there. But really, the UltraView team and the Mathews team worked so hard to build this sight and make it so integrated with this whole system. I mean, this bow, in my opinion, or this sight, in my opinion, is built specifically for this bow and for all of the Mathews bows with the bridge lock designs. And it's done in such a way where when we slide it through the riser, it lines up perfectly. And it just keeps it very in line. It's very sleek. They cut out all the extra weight. They simplified it. It still has all the same features as other sights out there. I really do want to check out the Excel driver sight as well. Saw it at a show. I think it's pretty sweet, but know that nobody's really got their hands on them quite yet from what I've seen. But definitely want to look into that. HHA makes a great sight as well. If you're looking for something a little bit cheaper, don't want to spend quite as much money, that still offers the first, second, third axis, still offers a rolling sight, but they don't have the 5 pins. So with everything that Mathews did and UltraView did to make this sight a little bit better, I think that this is the best option for this sight. So I'm really excited to run it. So we'll take out this screw. Actually, I got one here. We'll take out this screw for the bridge lock sight to lock it in place. It seems like it's pretty easy to just take the sight on and off. I know with the UltraView sight too, I can take the housing completely off, leave the bar on, or I can just take this bar off. And it looks like there's just one mounting position, which is fine. It goes right up against the riser. And then I can screw this in and lock it in. Okay. All right, so that seems pretty sturdy. Okay, so from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my level, and then we'll go ahead and get the first and second axis set up perfectly. So, okay, so I just got the Hamskea level here, and what I prefer to do is I like leveling the sight from the string. I know you get a lot of different opinions from this. Some guys like leveling it off the riser or the limb pockets, whatever else. I just like doing it off the string as long as I can get a level measurement from the string and it's level both sides, then I don't think there's any issue with it. So I'm going to use my clamp here to get this set. Okay, so that's pretty close to level right there. It looks like it's leaning back a little bit. This isn't needed so much, but I can just visually get it kind of close where I want it. That should be good. Okay, and a good way to just check if you're level is just to flip the level on the string. And if I do that, it's level on this side as well. So that's how I know that the bow itself, the string is level, and that my level that I'm using is perfect also. Because I leveled it on this side of the string, I leveled it on the other side of the string, and it's both perfectly level. And then if you look right through here, you can see the level on the sight is already set perfectly. So again, I think just kind of goes to the detail of what Mathews and the Ultraview team did when they set this up. I can put the slider for the bridge lock right through the riser, tighten it down, and it's already set. Basically my first and second axis is done. Really the only adjustment I think I will need to make is the third axis adjustment, which is going to be different for every archer, every shooter, depending on how they grip the bow and how the bow is twisted and torqued at their hand at full draw. So we won't mess with that right now. For now, it's all set. It's all good. Let's take this off. Okay. I think we are ready to put the D-loop and the nocking point on. If you don't have an archery box, you need to get one. It's where I keep pretty much all my stuff. I don't have a huge room to put all my archery stuff in or a big bench or anything. So that box goes with me just about everywhere I go, and it's got almost everything I need in it to work on a bow. So that's what I love about it. Okay, from here, I can just clamp this square on the string, on both strings. There we go. And then you can see the position right here in the rest. I'll just move it right down to kind of the B of the rest. I'm not going to force it down just enough so where it sits there. Okay, and then it gives me a pretty accurate reading of where 0 is right here. I'm going to set it roughly an 1/8 inch high, maybe a 1/4 inch high. That'll be set basically square with the middle of the burger buttonhole. One thing I want to attempt to do, and I saw this, I think it was from either Paige Pierce or Greg Poole, is play with the nocking point position to get a good hold. So before I tie on my permanent nocking point, I just want to give that a shot, see if I can notice any difference. I've not had any dipping issues or any hold, like jumping high out of the bullseye issues from my personal experience, but I just want to give it a different feel, give it a try, and see if I can notice any kind of a holding difference. So I'm just going to tie a standard D-loop on, not going to tie any knock sets or anything yet with it, just to give it a go and see how it works, essentially. So just fluff this in, just the BCY number 23 material. I like it a little bit more than the 24. The 24 is more common, but the 23 is a little bit more flexible. I like it for a handheld release when you're twisting your release, which is twisting the D-loop. We'll go ahead and just tie this on. Okay, this is the top knock set. I'll just put it right at basically 1/8, and then I can take this off for now. Here's the bottom knot. Okay, I'm going to make a cut right there. Melt this end down. Don't need to go overboard, just enough so that it has a bulb on the end. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm not going to crank this D-loop down. I just want to get it somewhat firm. So I'll take my D-loop pliers and just make it a little bit firm. Okay, so it's very loose, but it's strong enough where it's not going to come undone when I draw back. Okay, so then I will take, I've got the Stan Onyx release. Really love this release from Stan. This is the thumb clicker version. I'm currently shooting it just as a thumb without the click. I also shoot the resistance version of it. But it's got this awesome feature where I can put this post in right here into the neck and it will not fire the release. So great for this because I'm going to draw back, I'm going to aim, I'm going to notice if the pin is wanting to dip down or dip up. I'm going to move the D-loop up and down, see if I can notice a visual distance. I probably need to spend a lot of time doing it to actually practice shooting at 20 yards and like seeing the difference because I think I'll be able to notice it a lot better. But for this case, I just want to try it and see if there's a significant impact. If there's not, I'm just going to put it back to where I always put it, 1/8 inch above center from the burger hole. But for now, I'm going to try it. I'm going to grab an arrow just because I don't want to dry fire my brand new bow. Okay. And the rest isn't tied in or anything like that, but it doesn't need to be at this point. We'll put that in once we get our peep sight and stuff ready as well. So I'll take this off here. Okay. I'm just going to take a look at the timing of the cams. So if you look at the holes right here in the cams, this is the timing marks right here and right here. Okay, so the timing marks on the cam are different than cam sync. Okay, timing is the cam position here at rest, how it's oriented. So if these cams were oriented too far forward, if this was too short, these limbs would probably pull more than the 70 pounds that the mods I have in would give. And so if it's less, it would be less poundage. Really, I just want that cable lined up with the center of the hole on each, and that should get you very close for cam sync as well. So just looking at it, they're lined up almost perfectly down the middle. We'll check cam sync once we get our official D-loop on, but if the cam sync was off, I think that would influence my dipping of my pin up or down more than my D-loop position. So I'm going to go ahead and draw it back. I want to shoot my deer.
Do you need
Okay, honestly, that felt good.
Do you need to tie your rest in so your arrow pops up?
No, because it is all the way up. Yeah, I'm not shooting it, so I don't need to tie in my rest right now. Really, I'm just playing with my D-loop position. So what I'm going to do to move it up is I'm just going to twist it on the string, if I can help it here. I'm going to twist it again. Okay. Let's see. Let me check and see how much that moved it, if it did move it. Yeah, so that moved it up about 1/8 of an inch because now it's at 1/4 inch. So my D-loop position is about 1/8 of an inch higher. Let's drop back again and see if I can notice any kind of float pattern difference on my sight. Quite honestly, I think that is a little bit better than having it a little bit lower. I'm going to run it up a little bit further and see if it gets better, or maybe it'll start dipping out the top. But yeah, that's crazy. It's not a significant difference, but it's enough difference where I feel like I can notice it. So that's kind of exciting.
Even at such a short distance?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. I mean, it would be better if I was aiming at a 20-yard target and could see the pin movement on a actual target face.
Yeah.
But, okay, let's give this a look. who would know that professional archers like Paige Pierce or Greg Poole or whoever it was that I had heard that from would know what they're doing, making their bows hold steadier. They can sure hold a lot steadier than I can, that's for sure. Okay, so that is about 1/16 of an inch higher. So let's try that. It's interesting to just try this out and experiment with it. I don't want to try it lower than where I had it because I don't want to run into issues with my rest hitting my riser of my bow. I don't want to run into fletching contact issues. And more times than not, I feel like you'd have issues with the pin dipping down than dipping up just because of gravity in general. So let's try this and see how it feels. Yeah, I don't like that one quite as much. It's not as much of a difference, but I'm definitely getting a little bit more vertical movement with my pin because of that. It'd go up and then it'd go down, so I'm just going to switch it back the other way. I guess where I ended up was the D-loop about a 1/4 inch high. So I think what I'll do is I'll just put this bow back into the clamp, and then I'll just cut off my D-loop because I'm going to put in knocking sets, and then I'll tie on my knocking sets starting at a 1/4 inch high. And then for tuning purposes, I can just raise that rest up just a little bit to compensate for that. So let's put it back in here. Cut off the old D-loop. Be very careful not to cut your string anytime you're using a razor on serving or D-loop or anything. You definitely do not want to damage it. And put this back in. Okay, that looks good. So then I'm just going to take some BCY 3D, and this is what I'm going to tie my knock sets with. I've had no issues with it whatsoever, so I am just going to keep using it. If you guys have a better material out there that you prefer, let me know. I'm always liking to learn and experiment and figure out what I can do to make things better. Okay, so right there. That is about perfectly a 1/4. Okay. So that's a 1/4 inch high of perfectly 90 degrees to the center of the burger buttonhole. That is essentially what this is telling me. And I'm doing that because this rest should be sent perfectly with the burger hole vertically from this position, just out of the box as QAD. And that's how I knew it was in the right position. If you were running a different rest or a QAD that maybe wasn't the Mathews version, it may not have the center shot set up perfectly, and so you'd have to visually set up that center shot from the get-go, just so that you're not starting from too low or too high of a position with the rest itself. So the burger hole, if I just move this out of the way, we don't need it anymore, it's just right here. So that, starting at the center of that, is often considered optimal. I've always ran it either right in the center or just from the top of the burger buttonhole and have had no issues. So I think now by having this a 1/4 inch high, that's going to put it right at the top of the burger buttonhole. So that should be perfect. Okay, so 2 knots, do 3, and then 4. And I do like to get these pretty tight, but I don't want to get them so tight that I'm actually squeezing through the center serving on the bowstring itself. These are kind of my first impressions with these Mathews match bowstrings. And so far, I mean, it seems like they're very high quality. It seems like the serving is put on extremely tight and extremely well. So I don't think I'll have any issues by tying this on tight. It's not going to get in between them. Cut them off, burn them, make sure you hold it out away from the string. Kind of mash it in. Okay, we'll go ahead and tie our bottom knock set in. What I'm going to do is load this arrow. That way I can justify my gap for how much gap I should put into this bottom knock set right here. So this is my top knock set, and I'm going to give it, since this is a 29.5 inch axle to axle bow, The limbs do bend quite a bit when you come back to full draw. The string angle is probably a little bit tighter than what I was running on, say, my 33-inch oxford axle bow or even just my 30-inch oxford axle bow. I am going to give this a little bit bigger gap than I probably normally would, just because I want to prevent that knock pinch and prevent that arrow from bouncing around on the arrow rest as I draw back. So I'll just cut off another piece of the BCY 3D. And I'll go to tie it on the bottom here. And this is very important to get this perfect and get this right. Just the whole knocking points and D-loop in general, because oftentimes I'll set this up and I will not adjust it again all season. I like to tie a few more in the bottom than I do the top, just to get kind of an even, the string, I want the string even when it's holding the knock at full draw. And by doing this, since this knocking point likely is a little bit higher than center, that will make that string position when it's holding the knock perfectly level. So you don't have to tie in knock sets. You don't have to tie in 2 knock sets. If you do tie in a knock set, please tie in a bottom knock set, not a top knock set. If you just tie in a top knock set and then D-loop over it, generally what will happen is you will get pinch from the top part of the knock, and that's going to lift your arrow on your rest as you draw back. So if you're getting any kind of arrow lift issues when you draw back, that's likely what it's from. So by having these 2, it gives me the same consistent position. It does not change. If I need to retie a D-loop, then I can just retie the D-loop, put it right back in the same position. These knock sets are not going to move. All of the vertical tuning that I need to do from this point out, I can do with the arrow rest as long as the cams are in sync. Okay, it's not hurting the string when I do that. As long as I'm not holding it against the material itself, it's not going to cause any issues. Okay, that's looking good. Okay, D-loop time. Do the same thing that I did before when I was testing the D-loop position. Just going to tie it above and below the knock set. The length I like to have on a D-loop for a handheld release shooter is approximately 3/4 of an inch. If you get shorter than that, I find that the D-loop and the string is twisting at full draw, especially if you've got a high percentage let off and you don't have a lot of string tension. If you're shooting 85% let off and you're twisting your release and it's twisting the D-loop and it's twisting your string, you're going to get some torque on the string at full draw that could be very inconsistent if your hand is slightly different shot to shot. So by having a slightly longer D-loop, 3/4 of an inch or even just a little bit more, it causes that loop just to twist instead of the loop and the string twisting. So also how I have these knots tied are a big factor with how the knots twist on the string rather than just twisting the actual bowstring itself. So that's a factor too. Make sure your top knock set, this bead is facing away from you, and then the bottom knock set, this bead is facing towards you. That allows the string, as you twist it, it allows that knot to twist this way, that knot to twist that way, and then the knots are yielding instead of the string at full draw twisting in your hand. So just a little tip there for you. Pretty minor thing. I think most people probably know that, but just want to make sure you understand why. If you're like me, I don't just want to know what time it is. I want to know how the clock works. I think it gives me a better understanding of just the why to things and just allows me to learn more and remember things easier, I guess you could say. I'm going to get it pretty firm but not overly tight quite yet because we got to add that peep sight. So let's take this off. We are doing good. We're very close. Look at this rig. It looks awesome. I love this color for sure. Okay, so now let's put it in the press. We're going to put our rest cord in, and then we'll put our peep sight in approximately where I think it might need to be. Before I do that, let me just draw back, and I'm going to use this here as a reference. for approximately where I think the peep sight needs to go, and then I can move that. So let's just toss this in, take a look. Still got my release with the safety pin in it so that it should not fire. Never draw your bow back without an arrow in it. I'd way rather have this arrow in the wall than my bow in a million pieces. Maybe that's just me, but that's what I prefer. Okay. So for me, the peep needs to sit just a little bit above this blue string, probably 1/4 of an inch or so. So I'll just make that, when I put the peep in, I'll just put it in just a 1/4 inch higher. And that should get me pretty darn close. I'm not going to tie it in firm. I'm just going to tie it in loosely so that it doesn't fly out of the string. And then I can make finer adjustments from there. Okay. This is the first time that I've pressed this Lift-X, so I want to make sure I get these teeth from my bow press set up correctly. I think what's most important with pressing these bows is that you have enough clearance here so that your limbs and your cam is not coming back and hitting the actual bow press. So I think this should be enough because I've got these pressed forward, but just to be safe, I think I'm going to twist them forward a little bit more to give me a little bit more room. It's a simple thing you can do to prevent a mistake that might keep you from shooting your bow. And especially being just a week out from this trip, I do not have time to fix anything that may get broken. Okay, try this. Very important that I get these limbs level too when I press it. All right, put the top ones in. Go ahead and crank this down. Okay, go ahead and press. I'm just visually watching, making sure the limbs and the cams are not going up against anything in the press. And yeah, that's perfect. So that's simple enough. For the rest cord right here, this is super easy. I'll just split this cable right here. This is the down cable, this is the up cable. If you don't know, you can just grab the string, give it a slight pull, and you can see this cable's heading down, this cable's going up, or just remember that it's always this forward cable. So I will split this close to even as I can, but I don't need to count it. And then what I'll do is I'll take my rest cord right here, and I can slip it through like that, pull it tight, okay? And then that's good. Okay, so the rest cord is ready to be set. It's in there. And then for the peep sight right here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to split this string. I'm going to separate it. And then remember I said it needs to be about a 1/4 inch high. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide this up out of the way. That peep needs to go about right there. Let me get the peep out of the package. So I'm just running a 3/16 peep. I've ran this same style of peep, this rad super deuce 38-degree peep for a long time and have had no issues whatsoever. I've always said I prefer a black peep. It just seems to be most consistent within shadows and different lighting scenarios, whereas colored peeps that are red or blue or something like that, for me, I get some more variance when I'm shooting in different lighting conditions. So black 3/16, that should fit this housing pretty close and should give me about what I'm looking for as far as peep to sight, just lining up alignment. I'm going to slide this all the way up. I prefer to just keep this in the string just so I always have middle. It's not going to hurt anything. It's always right there. So we'll just start with the peep right there for now. And let's take tension off of the press, kind of see where it's sitting. Okay, sitting right there. I'm going to rotate these knots just to line up closer with that. Okay, perfect. Let's get it drawn back. We'll set the rest cord here, and then I'll kind of do a rough peep sight check to see where the peep sight needs to go. Again, we're not going to tie in the peep sight perfectly just yet. I need to do a lot of tinkering, a lot of shooting to get that peep sight perfect before I fully commit and tie that in exactly how I want it. So we'll stick an arrow back in and draw back. So this is going to set our rest cord. This is the quick and easy way to do it. You can do it in a draw board as well. We will put it on the draw board to check the cam sync, but we can just do it like this for right now, and then I'll show you what I do from there. So watch the rest cord. Okay, I draw back, and it pulls that rest cord through. If I check my peep height, my peep seems a little bit high, so I need to bring it down just a little bit. Okay. Okay, so with this rest position, or with the rest cord set here, by doing that, by drawing it back, you can see it pulled that cord through to the correct position. I'm going to wait to tie this in until I put it in the draw board, because then I can see at what point in the draw the rest comes up. Preferably, I want this rest coming up to the full position from that rest cord in roughly the last 1 to 2 inches of draw. If it comes up in the last 4 or 5 inches of draw, I personally believe it puts too much stress on this downward cable and on this cable of the rest. It doesn't need to be that firm. So I could probably just pull this cord out, maybe 1/8 of an inch, and it would probably be set, but I just want to look at it in the draw board. Let's put it back in the press. I want to move this peep down just a little bit. If I just slide the peep, I always risk cutting the bowstring, so I don't want to do that. If it's just a slight or a minor adjustment, you can get away with it most of the time, and depending on what peep you're using, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. So when I press, I always just lift up on the bowstring like this. That way I can measure the tension, but I also keep the cables and everything from coming undone out of the cams. So from here, I need to move it down about there. I'm going to flip the peep around now because it slid down the string and twisted on me. Okay, that should be close. And now we should be ready for the draw board. So I'll just clip this through the D-loop, clip the safety loop through the string. Okay, set. And I'll put it down onto the pipe right in the throat of the grip. Okay. Now this should be very close because the cam timing holes, if you just take a look right here, that's the cam timing hole, and you can see that cable going right through the middle of it. And then if you look over on this one as well, the cable going through the middle of the timing hole, that's going to indicate that the cams are in a perfect position at rest, which should indicate that the cam stops on the mods should come around and hit those cables at very close to the exact same time. But I want to be very picky so that the stops are hitting the cables at exactly the same time. If there's an 1/8 inch gap, I want to fix that. I want to get it so those stops are coming around and hitting perfectly at the exact same time. So let's get it drawn back and take a look. Okay, so watch the cord is starting to pull now, and I'm at about 27 inches in draw. And so then as I come around to the stops, about right there, now I'm at about 28 7/8 on the draw right here, which is about perfect for where I want to be. I'm usually about a 29 inch shooter. I will play with the draw length, try maybe 28 3/4, maybe 29 1/4, see what feels best for this bow. Generally right at 29 is about perfect. I do have the standard engage grip on this bow, and I actually have the 28.5 inch mod in it. But measuring this way from the throat of the grip to the pivot point of the string plus 1 3/4 is the ATA way of measuring draw length, and it allows me to get the exact same draw length from bow to bow to bow. And generally speaking, it seems like most bows do draw just a little bit long measuring this way. So I knew to get the 28.5 inch mods to get an actual close to 29 inch draw. So yeah, so from seeing that, when I drew it back also, the rest started coming up at 27 inches here. And I would rather have it start coming up a little bit further down the line so there's a little bit less stress through this cable. So I'm not going to do it under tension, but when I let down, I'm going to pull this cable out, just like I said, probably 1/8 of an inch here, and then I'll make a mark and I'll tie off that cord. That way there's just less tension here at full draw. So if we look at our stops right here and right here, So we are at full draw. We want to stop hitting the cable at exactly the same time. Let me back it off just one. Okay. So if you see, it's kind of hidden by this white cable, but you can see there's about an 1/8 of an inch gap. And if I look at this top one here as well, if you look down on top, you can see that there's probably close to an 1/8 inch gap there also. So I would say that that is probably pretty good. Let's go ahead and let it down. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is this rest cord right here. I want to set that. So I'll just put it back in the press, make this easy. So from right here, what I like to do is I'll take a little Sharpie and I'll make a mark right there, and then I'll pull the cord through and make the adjustment. That right there. Make that mark, and then what I can do is I can just pull this cord out, and then I'll just tie just a 1/2 hitch knot right to that gold mark. Okay. There, and there's the gold mark right at the tip of the knot. So then I can just pull this back through the cable, and it stops right up against that black knot. I'll cut that off right at the end. And I'll just burn it down just like my D-loop. Careful not to melt the string or anything like that, but mash that in, and then that should be set perfect. If I have any additional adjustments that I need to make to that cord, the QAD is great in the fact that I can also just adjust this screw that's right in here, and I can adjust this cord on this end as well to make it tighter if I need to, or looser a little bit if I need to. This should be set right where I want it. It will change if I move the rest way up or way down. But next steps, I think we're ready to finally go fire some arrows and shoot it. I'm very excited. Before we do that, actually, let's tie just a quick tie in this Peep sight. I don't want that flying out of the string. But then we can go shoot it. We'll get the sight set close, and then we can get to tuning. Very exciting. I'll just throw this back in to tie the Peep in quickly. I'm not going to do this extraordinary tie around the Peep. I'm just doing it enough to hold it. It's fine to do this and even keep it long term, but I do like it. I do like to tie it in more secure when I've got it in the perfect position. So I'm just going to do double overhand knots. I do it top and bottom of the Peep. I do it double so that the cord kind of catches on itself and it doesn't unravel as I tighten. If you just do a single overhand knot, those knots could come loose. Very simple, very easy. Honestly, 3 for now is just fine. So I can just melt it down right from the top. Do the same for this one. Okay. Peep's tied in. We are ready to shoot. Let's go outside, let's fling a few arrows, we'll get our sight close, and then let's get to tuning. All right, first shots with the new Lift-X. Really, I'm excited just to get a few arrows through it, and we're going to try to get that sight a little bit closer to where it needs to be so we can get that Peep sight a little bit closer as well. So just going to take a few shots here at 20, see how it flies.
Jeez, amateur.
I need a wrist sling on there. Did you see that?
I've never seen that happen to anybody.
I shoot with a super relaxed grip, and it literally jumped out. All the other bows I run, I put a wrist sling on it. We better put a wrist sling in there, huh?
Yeah.
That was hilarious. All right, we got to get this bad boy on here. I'm just gonna screw it right on the front. I've got an extra bolt, so I can just screw it right in here. I put it on backwards. Pro tip. Make sure you put things on the right direction. Simple enough fix. Well, hey, that's going to save somebody some time when they go to put one on themselves. Then they'll be like, oh, I need to make sure I put it on the right way. I didn't even think about it. Voila. Simple as that. Now I got my wrist sling. All right, let's go fire some arrows for real this time. Oh yeah, that felt awesome. Nice. Feels like those arrows are louder than the bow going off, flying through the air. Okay, I'm gonna loosen this up just a little bit because I don't want to have it too tight. I want to be able to set my grip perfectly. If you guys don't shoot with a wrist sling and you're gripping your bow hard enough where it isn't really jumping out of your hand a little bit, I would urge you to just try it and try shooting with a super relaxed grip, especially if you have inconsistency issues with paper tuning or bare shaft tuning or broadhead flight or anything like that. Most of the time that always comes down to the bow grip, and having a good consistent bow grip and a very relaxed bow grip is all you need to fix a lot of those little issues and inconsistencies that you might have. So give it a try if you haven't already. Let's go take a look. Nice. This is the first shot when the bow about jumped out of my hand, and these were the next three after I moved the sight down and put the sling on. So I'd say it's shooting pretty good. Shooting left high, we're not sighting in quite yet because we need to go to the range and tune it. So what we're gonna do, I think what I should do is I'm gonna shoot just a handful more arrows, and I'm gonna make sure that the strings and cables are kind of settled just a little bit. We didn't twist anything, so we shouldn't have many issues, but I wanna make sure our cam sync is perfect, where those stops are coming around and touching the cables at exactly the same time. And then what we can do is we'll go in town into the indoor range. They've got a nice paper tuner set up there. We'll go ahead and we will paper tune. And I am so excited for that because previously I would have had to shim cams and move those around and take a lot of time doing that to get it perfect. But I'm really, really excited to use this new limb shift technology that Mathews has come out with. I think it's a game changer and very just revolutionary in archery. I know Bowtech and Elite and other companies kind of have their own version of it. I've always been skeptical of it because of just the moving pieces. I liked having a fixed washer, if you will, or spacer, just so that there's no chance of that moving. But I think it's safe to say they've had it long enough now where nobody that I know of has really had any issues with it whatsoever. And I think the tuning simplicity that you can get by using it is worth it 100%. So let's shoot a few more shots, and then we'll go into town, we'll get to the paper tuner, and we'll start tuning. Let's do it. Got some oomph on it. These arrows are going through the target bang there. I think shooting at my Peep needs to come down just slightly. So I'm going to make just a slight adjustment here. Okay. That's going to make my arrow shoot lower, so I'm going to lower my sight just a little also. That one is awesome. I love this thing.
I love you too, babe.
All right, let's check cam sync. It's going to be hard to see, but right there where the draw stop is, you can see there's a pretty decent sized gap here in the top cam. And then if we go over to this side, I know the lighting's not the best, but you can see the gap of that draw stop against the serving, or against this cable right here, is a lot less. Right there you can see it. It's a lot less than that other cable is, or the other stop is. So I'm going to make a very slight adjustment to the cable to get those cams synced up and hitting exactly at the same time with each other. Okay, so when I put this in the drawboard, as you guys saw, the top cam had the gap, the bigger gap, which means we need to put twists into this bottom cable. Now, this bottom cable, how I would normally do this is I would take this off and I would twist, take it off carefully. I would twist this actual loop clockwise to tighten it, but I think a full clockwise twist may be too much. So what I'm going to do with these Mathews match strings is they do not serve the end loops, and they do it on purpose. And I learned this from Joel Maxfield. I saw he talked about this, where you can actually twist these loops in itself, if I can get it. And there's already twists in this loop, but I'm trying to put more into it per se. Because essentially what that's doing, there we go. Essentially what that does is it shortens that D-loop, or that loop on the cable. And that's what we're doing when we twist up our cable to begin with. So there we go. I don't know how many that was, but it was enough that it should make a difference. So I'm going to put it back on there, back on the cam. We'll see how micro of an adjustment that is. If it's not enough, we can always come back and just put a full actual half twist into the cable. But let's put it on the drawboard and find out. And always double check to make sure everything is centered in the cams here before letting all the pressure off, which it looks like it's good. So if you see this top cam right here, it's hard to see, there's just a slight gap in it. I'd call it probably a 1/16 of an inch between the stop and the cable. And then if we look up at this one, we've got a little bit bigger of a gap right there. And so we almost reversed it and flipped it. So we put too many twists in. So let's undo that loop just a little bit and see if we can get it closer. So I put twists into it, so now I'm just going to take a twist out just a little bit. That might be enough right there. I don't want to do a ton. But yeah, that is a great way to do a micro adjustment of your cable to get sync perfect. Okay, let's try it out. I'm looking at the timing holes here. They're still perfect right in the middle with those cables. Right here and here. And we haven't even thrown it on the scale yet. I'm going to drop back and see what it's pulling for weight. It should be right close to 70, I would guess, just because of where the cable position is and the timing marks of the cam with these 70-pound mods. So let's see. Oh, whoops, I didn't have the scale set right. Okay, P for peak. $71.5. So that's perfect. Okay. Put it back in the drawboard. And back it off just one. No, that's okay. There's a gap on both sides. So yeah, that is about perfect. Can you see that one? If you look at that gap on that stop, and then you come over to the top cam, and you look at the gap on that stop, it's almost exactly identical. And cam sync is just one of those things where it has got to be perfect. If you're a bow hunter shooting arrows that are steering any kind of broadhead, mechanical or fixed, your cam sync has to be perfect. If you're just an archer and you're just looking to shoot, some people intentionally put their cams out of sync depending on how they want their bow to hold for vertical movement. But as a bow hunter, you've got to have those cams perfectly in sync, and then you've got to have the cams and the center shot in the perfect position. That way you get perfect vertical and horizontal arrow flight out of your bow which will lead to the most forgiveness and accuracy with your broadheads. So we're set. Sync is good. Let's go into town, into the indoor range, and shoot it through paper. Welcome to the indoor range. Their fancy paper tuner. These are old tears here from somebody else, but we'll try to shoot right above it. Let's see what we get. Okay. So I'm going to start just relatively close to the target right here, just to kind of get the tear close to where I want it to be, and then we can back up in distance as we go and try to get it close to perfect. So let's take a shot, see what it looks like. It'll almost be disappointing if it's perfect right away, because I kind of want to mess with this limb shift stuff. I might just anyway, just because.
I won't be disappointed.
The chance of it being perfect is pretty slim to none. I'm guessing at least some kind of tear here. Oh my. That's it right there. It's honestly pretty close. So it's a little bit low and a little bit to the right. So that's a pretty good start. Let's let's go ahead and back up. We'll go roughly 5 yards from the paper. Let's shoot again. We should see a pretty drastic low right tear, assuming that it shoots the same. Let's try it out. Okay, so yeah, exactly what I thought. Points going in here, and then the arrow's coming out right here. So we got a low right tear. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lower that rest, drop it down. I want to fix that vertical tear, and then I want to fix that horizontal tear. That way we can really see this limb shift stuff in action. So all I brought with me to make all these adjustments is just my standard Allen wrench right here. So for the vertical adjustments on this rest, I'll just loosen this screw, and then I can give it twist down. Okay, so we're right at 0 right now. Okay, that is to the 1 mark. Let's try it right there. When you're making that adjustment, the vertical adjustment on this rest, if you have trouble when you're turning that dial and it's too stiff, sometimes that screw, the tiny screw on the inside of this thick screw, that is too tight. And so you just need to loosen up the inner screw inside of here just a little bit, and then you'll be able to turn that a lot easier, because that inside screw does not need to be too tight. So let's just stand back here again and shoot it again and see how it does. Again, I just moved the rest down, so we should still have a right tear, but let's see what it looks like. Okay. Take a look. Okay, we're closer, but we're still a little bit low. We're still getting the right tear, but we're still a little bit low. There's a good chance too when we slide the limbs out, that could fix the vertical a little bit, but let's bump that rest down just a little bit more. Okay. I adjusted the rest down further. Okay. We'll see where it lands with this. If we don't get it perfect, we'll just go ahead and go into that horizontal adjustment. But this should be a lot closer. Let's see. Ooh. This is a good learning moment here. I'll show you what happened.
Oh my.
See this? So what happened is when I moved the rest down, I'm moving the rest position closer to this cable, and I didn't adjust this cable
So
position.
bring the rest up.
Yeah, so the rest didn't come up into the full launcher position, and that's why that arrow came out of the bow about sideways. So what I'll do is I'm going to leave this knot here. I could just pull it a little bit, and that would fix it. If you're on a hunt or something, you could just pull it, and then it would bring the rest all the way up. But I'm going to make that micro adjustment right here in the rest. I'll show you. I'll do it right now. There's just a little screw in there. I think maybe this one. I can loosen this screw and the rest, and then shove that through just a little bit. We'll call it right there. I shoved it through about as much as I made the rest adjustment down, so it should be close. We'll take a visual look at it when we go to shoot here. Okay. Let's try it.
I think I got that on video because I focused in on the rest.
That's funny. People will be like, "Do you really know what you're doing?" Yeah, I'm still learning just like the rest of us. I've got a pretty good idea though. Hopefully you guys are learning something. All right, let's take another shot. Okay. So that's right here. So yeah, that's looking pretty good. It's still a little bit tail right, and it's actually a little bit high. Just for fun, I'm going to come up. I'm going to take a close shot, a shot where I was, and a far shot. I'm going to look at all of those tears and see what I get. Let's try it. Sorry, you okay? We'll give her a go. Okay. So close shot right here. That's pretty close to perfect, but not exactly, but pretty close. Dang, we might not get to do any limb shift adjustment. That was this tear, but it kind of caught into that tear too. Let's take one more shot at that. This shot right here. That's looking pretty good. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Let's back up a little bit further. Is it really that easy to tune?
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, I don't know. That's right there. We're sure looking pretty good. Let's back up further. That's like perfect.
There. Okay. Got it.
I'm kind of
Cool.
bummed.
Let's go home.
I'm kind of bummed I didn't even get to try it out. Can we just give her a few twists one way or the other just to try it out?
No.
Well, that's exciting. I mean, literally all I did was drop the rest down just a little bit. I didn't do any horizontal adjustment or anything. I guess the way I grip the bow is just set up perfect with where they have the cams positioned perfectly. If we did need to make adjustments with these, like I typically have had to do in the past with horizontal adjustments, I would shim the cam itself towards the tear. So if I'm getting like that right tear at first, when I lowered it, for whatever reason it cleared it up. But if I was getting that right tear and I needed to shim the cams to the right, that's what I would do. I would put the thicker spacer from the right side on the left side, the thinner on the right, move that cam over. Generally, that'd clean up that tear. But that involved a bow press. That involved, not losing those spacers, pushing the axle out of the cam, keeping track of them, moving it the right direction, putting it back in. It takes time, and I couldn't come to this range here and do it. I would have had to do it at home and do it with my press handy, and it just adds a little bit more time to it. It's good once it's set, you don't have to worry about it. But here, if I had that, all I'd have to do is take this screw out on both the top and the bottom, and I could twist that limb out or in just a little bit to do the exact same effect. So as I understand it, with this, you've got left and right written on the screw, so clockwise or counterclockwise. If I was getting the right tear, I would just do a counterclockwise screw. I was told one full twist equals basically one top hat adjustment. So that tear was too small. I'd probably do a half twist counterclockwise on the top, half twist counterclockwise on the bottom, and it would shim, it would move that limb tip just enough where that arrow would then come out perfectly straight. But I think we can see that all I had to do is lower the rest, and it's good. Let me just take a few more shots on a clean paper so we can have a row of them right here and just make sure that it's perfect. I really want to get this set up exactly how I want it, and then we'll go side in. Let's try it.
You're just itching to tinker with it.
I am. I do love tinkering. I'm going to lower this down a little bit. This is a super handy paper thinner. Okay. That's the close tear. And I think from what I've seen, no matter what bow I'm shooting, it doesn't seem to matter so much that first initial tear at a close distance. It's as soon as I get back to about 5 yards, all the way back to 20, that's when I want that arrow flying perfectly straight. I don't know if it's something to do with arrow spine or something else that makes that arrow react just a little bit differently when you're very close. I mean, that's still a bullet hole through paper. It's very clean. But it's not uncommon to have it just a little bit of a variance compared to every other tear. So this is about 5 yards. Let's take a shot here. Okay. That's that shot right there. This is probably 8 or 9 yards. That one's a little bit right. It did hit my sleeve just a touch. We'll see if it kicks up further as I back up a little bit more. That's this one right here. I was trying to aim it a little bit higher, but that's so close to perfect.
Yep.
Okay, one more, like 15 yards just for fun.
Nice.
That's wild. That's so awesome. That was sure easy to set up. I think at this point, just being a week out from the hunt, all I've got to do now is sight in. So this sight, running this 5-pin UV slider, it's a little bit different than every other 5-pin slider I've set up because the middle pin is stationary and the other pins are movable. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to spread out these pins because they're not set perfectly by any means yet. And I'm going to roll my sight up and I'm going to set that middle pin here, the 40 pin. I'm going to set it at 20, so we've got a 20-yard indoor range. I'm going to sight it in so I've got my 20 baseline set. I'll throw the sight tape marker on at home. I'll line it up perfectly so that the indicator is lined up with where the 20-yard mark is, and then we'll step back to 60, choose the tape from there, and go through that whole process. So let's get this sighted in at 20, and then we'll head home, finish up sighting it in there. It's very important not to over tighten these for sure. There's such a tiny little screw, you could easily mess it up. Okay. So the point of that is I'm just spreading out my pins right now because really I'm just going to use that middle pin as my reference because that's center. So that's what I want to figure out my sight tape from. And then I'll show you how I'll then use my sight tape to have just the bottom pin as my indicator on the tape because I want that set from 60 to 120 or whatever it goes out to. So let's get this middle pin dialed in here at 20. I'll just shoot a group down there into that single spot. Probably about right there. Bam! I caught my sleeve. Sight's also way too high. Try it right there. That one was pretty good. Let's go take a look.
It looks good.
I think you're probably right. Okay. First shot, move the sight up. The rest of them, I'd say if anything, they're averaging slightly above center, but I can't shoot a whole lot better than that, so I'm just gonna call that good for my 20-yard mark. And we'll put the sight tape on there, and we'll get back home, and let's get the sight tape on, get it sighted in. I'll show you a super easy, simple process to set your pins, because these are not micro adjust pins, but really you don't need micro adjust pins unless you're sighting in each pin individually. But once we have our sight tape, I can show you how you can just line up your scope, because you can take this off of the housing and put those pins right on your sight tape and line it up perfect 20 to 60, and you don't even have to move them after that. If your sight tape is correct, you have nothing to worry about. So I'm excited to get this sighted in. I think it'll be pretty quick. And yeah, I'd say that's pretty good. Let's roll. All right, got our UV sight tapes. We've got our middle pin sighted in at 20 yards perfectly. So I'm just gonna take the setup tape, which is just these ones here in the tape, and I'm gonna put that on this right here, okay? So we know the scope housing position. We know that where the sight is right now, the middle pin is sighted in perfectly at 20 yards. So the last thing I want to do is move that sight. I just want to move this indicator to come up here to this 20-yard position. So I can just take this Allen key on the indicator right there and loosen that, and I should be able to get it. That's probably pretty good. It looks like it's perfectly in line with the 20-yard line and that pointer, just like that. So we've got the middle pin, the fixed pin, set at the 20-yard indicator on the tape. We're going to go out to outside, 60 yards. We're going to roll our sight tape down, and we're going to get it dialed in so that middle pin hits perfect at 60 yards. And that's going to tell us with these numbers on this sight tape which sight tape we actually need. So let's go outside, we'll shoot, figure out what sight tape we need. Okay, this is good. All right, let's do a guess of where 60 yards will be. I'm gonna roll it down to the middle of the sight tape on number 15. Take a shot. I've got a big 4 foot by 4 foot target there, so I'm not concerned about missing it. Let's take a shot and see what we get. I think I smoked the plate. I think it was right on. That'd be so lucky if we literally went to the range, paper tuned it, made one slight rest adjustment, and then just like guessed where the sight needs to be at 60 and hit it. Maybe that was a lucky shot. I think that was a little bit higher. That would be good. We're just going to shoot this quiver full and we'll go off of an average. That one might have went through a gap there in the target. That one was me. We won't count that one. That was a little left. Nice. We got arrows hammering through the target here. Okay. So this was the last one. This one was the one that was a little bit left, so we can kind of disregard that. The main thing we're actually testing for here is the height. And as you can see, I would say this is my average. This was the first shot. It was a little bit low, it hit the plate. But this is my average here, so we need to dial that sight up just a little bit. So let's go ahead and move that up, we'll step back and shoot again at 60, see if we can get them all kind of in that area of the plate. Let's try again. So I've got it right in the middle here at 15, and I was shooting high. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bump it up. Probably about there is where I'm guessing. So let's give that a shot and see how they land. One more. Go take a look. A few that went through. Okay. Second group right here. If we split, we've got 3 arrows low, we got 3 arrows high. Honestly, these shots were feeling really good right here. So I'm going to call this good for now, just to save time for the video for you guys. Now, where I'm at right here on the sight tape, it looks like I'm probably at about 13, right between 10 and 15. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 13 sight tape. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to line it up on this metal piece here, and the middle pin's on at 60. So what I'll do is I'll just put that tape on and adjust it so that the indicator lines up for this middle pin for now at 60, and then I'm just going to verify the tape. I'm going to make sure it's on. So 20 should be the same as this line, so that should be set, but I'm going to back out to far distances and I'll just check the tape that way, and then I'll show you how to then get that bottom pin as your indicator for your 60-yard mark, and then how to set all of your 5 pins as well very efficiently and easy. So let's go get tape number 13 on there and do a little bit more shooting. All right, so we've got this here. What we're going to do is I'm going to take this metal bracket for the sight tape off. We know this indicator for the middle pin should be 60 yards. So then all I'll need to do is line this new tape up on here and line it up with 60 yards. So I'll go ahead and take this off. I'm going to be very careful not to lose these screws. Itty bitty things. Okay. Let's set this screw down. And then I'll just set that there. Okay, we were sight tape number 13, or at least close to it, right here. So I'm just going to pull this indicator piece off. And I can just stick that back on there. We'll pull off 13. Okay. Definitely don't need to over tighten these screws. They're tiny, but they're not holding anything else on other than the plate. So just looking at it, that indicator is lined up perfectly on the 6 right here. So it should be set. So that's for the middle pin, right? So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just verify that my tape that I put on is actually 100% correct. Because if I need to go down to 12 or up to 14, if I figure that out later, then I waste my time doing all these extra steps that I'm going to show you here. So what I will do is just go shoot and shoot and shoot, make sure the sight tape is set. But in an effort to save time for you guys and for this video, I'm going to show you that what to do if this sight tape is 100% perfect. It's set up, you've verified that from 20 to as far as you can shoot, that middle pin is impacting on at all the sight tape's distances. This is telling us that, hey, like our sight is on, right? So what we need to do now, since we're shooting a 5-pin sight and we're going to go 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, that middle pin, the pin that we're using, we need to adjust that to 40 yards. So we can just take this and we should be able to roll the sight up to 40, and that should be perfect where that position will be, right there, right? And then of course you verified your tape, you know it's on. Let's get our pins set right here. So The easiest way to do this, we'll go ahead, let's take our whole sight housing off here. Okay, and then there's this little set screw right there. Let's see, this might be too big. Yeah. Maybe this one. We can loosen this. Okay, and then pull our housing out, just like that. Okay, and then you'll notice these pins, they're almost flush, just like this. So if we know that this middle pin is going to be 40, and we know this is 30 and 20, 50 and 60, we can line this up on our sight tape, but we can line it up so the middle pin is on 40, and we can just adjust these pins to match on the sight tape where it needs to be. Right there. So if I just look at it really close, I can see my 40, my 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60 are lined up perfectly on my sight tape. That should be mathematically, oh, you know what I did?
You had it upside down.
I had it upside down.
I knew it.
That's so funny. Make sure you have this the right direction, because my gap between my 20 and 30 is way bigger than my 50 and 60. So make sure we go the right way. We'll do it on this side.
Here we go. For real this time.
For real this time. Okay. So there we go. That is set 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. We can go ahead and pop it back into our side housing right here. Okay. We'll lock it down with this one. Doesn't need to be overly tight, just firm. Let's just go ahead and put this sight tape back on. It'll be easier to put on before we slide that on there. Okay. We'll put our side housing back on right here. Snaps right in, or we'll adjust this so that the bottom pin is on at 60 yards. We'll move the indicator to 60 yards, and then we'll do a walk up to 20 to verify that all the pins are on. So let's do it. So if we put our yardage bar here with our sight tape, if we put it back in the exact same position as before, we should be able to line up the pointer with 40, which would be where the middle pin is, and that should put our bottom pin at 60. So we'll put it down, or we'll just use the bottom pin with this pointer at 40 for the middle pin. We'll use the bottom pin and see if we're hitting on or very close to it. That was on. Should we step up to 50? Okay, now I'll use the second pin. That was on. Go to 40. Okay, close enough to 40. Okay, so this is middle pin, haven't adjusted the sight. Okay, we'll go to 30. Okay. So 30-yard pin, which is the second pin. Okay. Go to 20. All right, let's check it out. All right, so this is my 60-yard walk up to my target, and basically I just confirmed that I confirmed that my sight was on with my sight tape, which it was, and my 60-yard pin was right on. I walked up from 60 to 20. All my pins were set using that method with the sight tape to just confirm that That's all you really need to do. You don't need that micro adjust to try to sight in each pin. You can just use the sight tape. From here, the only adjustment we need to make is we'll take our Allen wrench and we'll lower this down to 60, and we're going to move our stopper right here. We'll adjust that down as well. That way we get our base at 60 yards with the bottom of our sight. So let's go ahead and make that quick adjustment, and then we should be complete. So the indicator was on right at 40 for the middle pin. So I'm just going to move that down to 60 because that's what I want the indicator going off of. It's just the bottom pin only. Okay, just like that. And then this is our stopper, which should stop up against this. So I'm going to take this out. Well, you know what? I'm going to need my other Allen wrench. I'm going to grab that quick. Okay, we'll push it right against the top. And there it should be. And then we'll tighten this screw down. So this is our home base. So we can just slide it all the way to the top, and our base is set 20 to 60, which is where the majority of the shots I will take while hunting will be. So if you look at this, now the indicator is indicating the bottom pin is at 60 yards, and each pin all the way to the top is 60 to 20 in 10-yard increments, so 20 to 60. From there, I can take this, and I can lower this down, and that bottom pin is going to be wherever that indicator is. So right there, I max out at about 105, and then I can get all the way in between 105, and it stops at 60. That's a hard stop right there. So this has been probably the easiest bow I've ever had to set up, ever. I think mostly from luck than anything, but quite literally, we paper tuned it with just 2 small rest adjustments straight down, and this was definitely the quickest sight-in process I've ever had. I'm sighted in from 20 to 105, and I'm a long ways from being confident enough to take this out and go hunt with it. I have a lot of small little details I want to work on. I'm going to add weights to the stabilizers. I'm going to make sure that peep sight is exactly where I want it. I'm going to double check all my sight marks, make sure they are perfect before I go hunting, and I'm definitely going to check my broadheads and make sure they are flying on with my field points as well. But I've got a week to get ready, and I'm pumped. Micah's pumped. We're going to have a blast, and I'm excited to take the new Lift-X out after it and see if we can have some luck. So thank you guys for following along. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully some of the mistakes that I made you can prevent yourself from doing when you're setting up your own Lift-X. But this is a shooter. I've just been very excited about it. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.